Atlanta, a city known for its music, its culture, and now, its biggest criminal trial. The YSL RICO case has gripped the nation. Young Thug, one of hip-hop's biggest names, is at the center. Prosecutors allege YSL is more than a record label, it's a dangerous gang terrorizing the streets of Atlanta. The trial has sparked fierce debates about artistic freedom, gang violence, and the role of social media in criminal justice. The stakes are high. The prosecution is seeking decades behind bars for Young Thug and his co-defendants. The defense claims they're targeting a creative collective, criminalizing their art and their community. The YSL trial isn't just about one rapper or one label. It's a case that could reshape how we view hip-hop and its relationship with the law. Jeffrey Williams, the man behind the Young Thug persona, is a hip-hop icon. His unique style and sound have influenced a generation of artists. But prosecutors paint a different picture, a ruthless gang leader using music as a front for criminal activity. The charges are serious racketeering, drug possession, and gang activity. Alongside Thug stand DeMonte Kendrick, known as Yak Gotti, and Shannon Stillwell. They face their own set of charges, including murder. The prosecution alleges their involvement in violent crimes as part of YSL's criminal enterprise. Their fates are intertwined with Thug's. The prosecution's case hinges on proving YSL is a gang, and these men are key players. The defense argues that Kendrick and Stillwell are individuals, not gangsters. They are young men caught in a system that criminalizes their community and their art. The trial becomes a battle of narratives. Are these hardened criminals or victims of circumstance? May 2022. The news broke like a thunderclap. Young Thug, Gunna, and over 24 others indicted on RICO charges. The sweeping indictment sent shockwaves through the music industry and beyond. The prosecution's message was clear. They were coming for YSL with everything they had. The months that followed were a whirlwind of legal maneuvering. Jury selection alone took almost a year. The trial itself became a media spectacle, with every development scrutinized and debated. Then came the plea deals. Gunna took a deal, maintaining his innocence but accepting a sentence. Others followed suit. The pressure mounted on Young Thug. Finally, on October 31, 2024, he accepted a plea deal, effectively ending his participation in the trial. With Thug out, the focus shifted to Kendrick and Stillwell, the remaining defendants facing a jury's verdict. Section 4. The state's case, gang signs, and social media. The prosecution's case rested on painting YSL as a criminal enterprise, not a record label. They aimed to show that the group was more than just a collection of artists making music. It was an organized gang involved in serious criminal activities. They presented a mountain of evidence: guns, drugs, and social media posts. Each piece of evidence was meticulously laid out to build a narrative that YSL was deeply entrenched in illegal activities. Prosecutors argued that YSL's music wasn't just art, it was a confession. They dissected lyrics line by line, suggesting that the words were not fictional but rather autobiographical accounts of real crimes. They pointed to lyrics glorifying violence and gang activity. The prosecution claimed that these lyrics were not just for shock value or artistic expression, but were direct admissions of guilt. Social media played a key role. Platforms like Instagram and Twitter were used to bolster the prosecution's case, showing how YSL members communicated and coordinated their activities. Prosecutors used Instagram posts, tweets, and music videos to establish a pattern of gang activity. They argued that these posts were not random but part of a calculated effort to intimidate rivals and promote their criminal enterprise. They argued that YSL members used these platforms to intimidate rivals and promote their criminal enterprise. The prosecution showed how social media was a tool for spreading fear and asserting dominance. The prosecution's strategy was clear: use technology to connect the dots, linking YSL's online presence to real-world crimes. They aimed to show that the digital footprint left by YSL members was a roadmap to their criminal activities. The prosecution's case relied heavily on witness testimony. Witnesses were brought in to corroborate the evidence presented and to provide first-hand accounts of YSL's alleged criminal activities. Some witnesses were former YSL associates, others claimed to be victims of the alleged gang's violence. These testimonies were crucial in painting a vivid picture of YSL's operations and the impact of their actions. Their credibility would be a key factor for the jury to consider. The defense would likely challenge the reliability of these witnesses, pointing out their pasts and potential biases. The prosecution needed to convince the jury that their witnesses were reliable, despite their pasts and potential biases. They emphasized that the consistency and detail in the testimonies were indicative of their truthfulness, aiming to leave no doubt in the jury's mind about YSL's criminal nature. Section 5. YSL's defense lyrics aren't confessions. The defense faced an uphill battle. They were up against a well-prepared prosecution team that had spent months building their case. The stakes were incredibly high, and the defense team knew they had to be meticulous in their approach. They had to counter the prosecution's narrative and humanize their clients. This meant not only presenting evidence but also telling a compelling story that would resonate with the jury. They needed to show that their clients were more than just the accusations against them. Their core argument was simple. YSL is a record label, not a gang. They emphasized that YSL was a legitimate business entity, involved in the music industry, and that their clients were artists, not criminals. They argued that the prosecution was criminalizing a creative collective, punishing young black men for their art. This was not just a legal battle but a cultural one, touching on issues of race, art, and freedom of expression. A key point of contention was the use of rap lyrics as evidence. The prosecution had presented these lyrics as literal confessions of criminal activity, but the defense saw it differently. The defense argued that lyrics shouldn't be taken literally. They pointed out that rap, like all forms of art, often involves storytelling, exaggeration, and fictional elements. They argued that rap, like all art, is often fictional and exaggerated. Just as a novelist isn't assumed to have committed the crimes they write about, a rapper shouldn't be assumed to have lived the violent stories they tell in their music. Using lyrics against their clients, they claimed, violated their First Amendment rights. They stressed that freedom of speech is a fundamental right, and that artistic expression should be protected under this right. The defense also attacked the credibility of the prosecution's witnesses. They scrutinized every detail of their testimonies, looking for inconsistencies and motives that could undermine their reliability. They highlighted inconsistencies in their testimonies and pointed to potential biases. They suggested that some witnesses might have been influenced by the promise of reduced sentences or other deals with the prosecution. They argued that some witnesses were motivated by deals with the prosecution, hoping to reduce their own sentences. This, they claimed, made their testimonies less trustworthy and more likely to be influenced by self-interest. The defense's strategy was to sow doubt, to convince the jury that the prosecution's case was built on shaky ground. They aimed to show that the evidence was not as solid as it appeared, and that there were too many uncertainties to convict their clients beyond a reasonable doubt. Section 6. Hip-hop speaks out, support for Thug. The YSL trial wasn't just a legal battle, it was a cultural flashpoint. It brought to the forefront issues that have long simmered beneath the surface of society, particularly within the realms of art and justice. The hip-hop community rallied around Young Thug, expressing their support through music, social media, and public statements. Artists like Drake, Travis Scott, and Killer Mike spoke out against the prosecution's use of lyrics as evidence. This wasn't just about one artist, it was about defending the entire genre and its right to free expression. The use of rap lyrics as evidence in courtrooms has been a contentious issue for years. Many in the hip-hop community see it as a direct attack on their art form, a way to criminalize their creativity and silence their voices. Killer Mike, a prominent figure in the movement, passionately argued that lyrics are a form of artistic expression and should not be used to incriminate artists. The trial ignited a broader debate about the role of art in society and the limits of artistic freedom. It raised questions about whether artists should be held accountable for the content of their work, or if their creations should be viewed purely as expressions of their inner worlds. Some argued that rap lyrics, even when violent, are protected speech under the First Amendment. They contended that these lyrics are often a reflection of the artist's environment and experiences, not a literal blueprint for criminal activity. Others argued that artists have a responsibility to consider the potential consequences of their words. They believe that while artistic freedom is important, it should not come at the expense of public safety or be used to glorify violence. The YSL case highlighted the complex relationship between art, freedom of expression, and the law. It forced society to confront difficult questions about where to draw the line between artistic freedom and legal accountability. The trial also sparked conversations about race and the criminal justice system. It underscored the disparities that exist within the system and how they disproportionately affect black artists and communities. Many argued that the prosecution's aggressive pursuit of YSL was rooted in racial bias, reflecting a long history of criminalizing black art forms. This case was seen by many as another example of how the justice system can be used to suppress and control black voices. The YSL case became a symbol of a system that often seems stacked against black men, particularly those who dare to challenge the status quo. It highlighted the need for systemic change and the importance of standing up for artistic and racial justice. The support for Young Thug was not just about one man, but about a larger movement for equality and freedom in the arts.